Maathuis, 12:35.
All set with that? I would choose good. That's why I did.
All right. Let's do this. Let's do this today. Let's get in the seat. UNLV plays Kansas tonight. I actually will watch that after my the Yanks won, beat your Sox in a walk-off. My dad says if we take 2 out of 2 from you, that will put you guys away, pretty much. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they managed to stay as competitive as they did for as long as they did. Kansas City Royals, huh?
Yep. Kansas City Royals. Yeah, my son went to a game now to see the Yankees. Modelo Friday. All right. All right. We got the Tua concussion, and what was the Pierce bite, coach bite you took?
First page 1.
Yeah, which one?
The one I marked up.
Okay, thoughts on Tua, but what about the game? Did I say was
anything you want? Yeah.
All right.
What do you need? Check off what you want.
All right. Okay.
This is all from this morning.
Yeah. Deep shots. It's happening, everybody. Yeah, I'm going to lead with Tua. That was really unfortunate, man. That is not what you want to see happen to a football player or a boxer or a hockey player or anybody who plays a contact sport.
Remember to use bonus code FOOTBALLV when you put your first wager on options like the money line, parlays, prop bets, live betting, and more. You get up to $250 back in bonus bets if you don't win.
Hey, I got that thing you sent me from ESPN yesterday also. Damian Woody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All the Tua stuff's on page 2. One more time.
Donald Trump's back, and he's out for control.
I have every right to go after them.
Complete control.
I will wield that power very aggressively.
And he has a plan to get it.
Detailed plans for exactly what our movement will do.
It's called Project 2025, a 922-page blueprint to make Donald Trump.
You going to Journey this weekend or
No?
or
They're in Rio. They're going to rock in Rio. I have a good story to tell about that.
Yeah, I got that cue for the last time.
K through 12 schools, requiring the government to monitor women's pregnancies, and Trump has also proposed severe cuts to Medicare and Social Security. Those are Donald Trump's plans.
Well, revenge does take time, I will say that. And sometimes revenge can
All
be
right.
justified.
He'll take control. We'll pay the price.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message. Paid for by Harris for president.
Come see why thousands have made the switch to Finley Chevrolet. 215 in South Rainbow. Find new roads.
Findlay. Finley Chevy is a place to buy. Oh my God.
All right, let's do this, everybody. Let's have a good day. Jim Lampley will join us, the great broadcaster. He's going to join us first, and then Chris Maathuis from 8 News Now. And then I think you're going to like later in the show, I got my 15 minutes with Eric Allen and Rich Gannon. We're going to play that. And just sending out the pre-show tweet. Hey, y'all follow me on Twitter at JT the Brick. You're on Twitter? I think you are. All right. Here we go.
Listen to past podcasts 24/7 at lbsportsnetwork.com. This is Raider Nation Radio 920 AM, KRLV Las Vegas.
You're listening to the JT the Brick Show, where the Raider Nation has come to sound off and react for over 20 years.
It's time for JT the Brick.
You want a conspiracy theory? I'll give you one.
There's no way you can sit in the boardroom on Park Avenue where NFL headquarters are and say the Raiders are going to open up with 2 on the road against the Harbaugh brothers. What are the odds of that? You're giving us the Atlanta game on Monday Night Football at the end of December. Thanks. Really appreciate that. Now, what you want to thank you, Roger? You just scoffed and mocked us. Like, you're nothing. We're nothing.
JT the Brick.
I'm defending the Raiders. You should be defending the Raiders. Very simple. Make the Raider Nation stand up. Sound off like you got a pair. It's your time now to be heard. You got a flagship station that isn't compromised up north with a baseball team going out of business and another San Francisco football team and host them in the pocket. You got me at the front gates of the Raider Nation trying to help you have a voice on this. So let's roll.
And now,
Raider Nation unite!
here's JT the Brick.
Here we go. It's a Modelo Friday, home of the Silver and Black Raider Nation Radio. All sports here on the Las Vegas Sports Network and that Raiders mobile app. How we doing? It's a Friday. It feels like a Friday. It's been a long week. We were off yesterday for Aviators. Did they win, Bobby? I didn't catch the final, but we were kicked off for Aviators. They won. Now we're back. We got a big show. It's fast. It's a roll call. If you want to get in, you got to get in quick. 702-365-9200. Would love to hear from some East Coast Raider Nation making the pilgrimage to Baltimore to try to go get a win there. And welcome into the show. We got a busy one today. We want to hear from you. And we got 2 great guests in the first hour. Jim Lampley, one of the greatest sports broadcasters ever. He's in town for the Canelo Fight. I'm going ringside to the Canelo Fight. I never miss a Canelo Fight. That'll be Saturday night. Early turnaround. Ooh, Raiders pregame show, 8 a.m. That's 8 a.m. in deep Henderson, I have to be, from Summerlin. So that's like an early double wake up. Let's go. But I'm ready to roll, rested and ready. And the Raiders play at the Ravens, and that is the focus of the monologue. Quickly, before we get Jim Lampley, he's going to join us in about 10 minutes. He's got to go quick. Chris Maathuis, the Dean of the Newsmen. He'll join us at the bottom of the hour. I want to lead with Tua's concussion. Tua Tagovailoa had a serious concussion last night, very serious. All concussions are serious, but that's his 4th, and you know the number is more than 4. We all know the number is bigger than 4. It could be 5, it could be 12, it could be, what about high school? What about Alabama? What about at practice at Alabama? What about at practice in Miami? I don't know, but he suffered another concussion, and it is not good. And it is not good, and I think when fans watch sports, we have to remember that athletes are there to entertain us. College, which used to be amateur, but now it's pros. I mean, the Olympics used to be amateur. Now it's pros. They get paid for winning gold medals. And then the professional athletes who play at the professional level. They're there to entertain us. Now we're entertained with gambling. We're entertained with television and watching the games. And if we go to the games, your season ticket holder, whatever, you're entertained. It's entertainment. When they get hurt, everybody needs to act appropriately. The absolute worst part of social media for sports are the idiots and the jerks who comment on injuries. These are the lowest forms of human sports fans. They are at the bottom of the barrel. They're the worst. When someone gets injured, if you want to put a pray emoji up, fine. If you want to say, I hope he's okay, stop commenting on how they got injured or what you think is going to happen to that player in 2 weeks. How dare you? And last night I'm on social media and I'm just looking at idiots. And if I was on satellite radio or on a podcast, I'd use a more crude language, who are sitting there playing doctor, trainer, trying to guess what's going on in Tua's brain. How dare you? The guy got hurt. He's a great kid. He's a man of faith. You know, he has the cross on his eye. The guy is an unbelievable human being by all accounts. Tyreek Hill is one of the worst people in sports. He is a lowlife. He is a terrible person. And did you see the media this week fawn all over Tyreek Hill? Oh, it wasn't that bad. He's allowed to roll up his window. He's allowed to yell at a cop. He's allowed to tell the cops who are doing their jobs what they should do. They're the cops. And he's saying, no, I'm in charge here. Really? He's a lowlife. He always has been. Tua is the opposite. Tua is like top all-time guy. So I think that everybody has to build this topic differently. There were people on radio today, sports television, my buddy Stephen A., who I'm texting, who's in town. People are looking at it differently. Other hosts are saying he should retire. That's a fair take. That is a fair opinion. I don't believe he should retire. I don't. He's a young guy. They have protocol. They have doctors. They have neurologists. If he can play, he should play. He's a football player. But there are people that I respect their opinion. If they say he should never play again because of all the brain damage that he's doing, I'm all right with that. It's his decision. It's not ours. Can you imagine us getting in the way of his decision? You imagine some guy in his 40s sitting in his basement as his mom's bringing down mac and cheese, tweeting, Tua should do this or that. That's where we live. That's what's happened in society recently. It's only been 5 or 10 years. Jack Dorsey invented Twitter. Mark Zuckerberg invented Facebook. Now you got Elon Musk involved, and everyone believes their medical opinions count on COVID, vaccines, concussions, and everybody just plays doctor from their basement. And I saw that last night, and it really troubled me. It really troubled me that everybody couldn't just put their phones down and go, wow. I was watching the game at Virgin at one steakhouse, name drop alert. Jonathan Kane of Journey invited us to dinner. We had a nice night, and we were watching with a couple Dolphin fans who were on his team, his road crew team for Journey. And they were scared for him. They know Tua. They were scared for him. And watching that in real time, I was like, man, I talked to my son about it when I got home last night and my wife. And I just want to say that when it comes down to guessing about someone's brain, don't guess about someone's brain. Guess about their MCL. Guess about their Achilles. Yeah. Their shoulder. Max playing injured with the knee. I'm cool with that. But leave everybody's brain out of your mouth. And stop talking about like you know what you're talking about with this. If you think he should retire, that's a good phone call. I mean, he maybe should retire. He got the guaranteed money. Someone asked me today, well, how much of that money is guaranteed? I'm like, pretty much all of it. He got one of those $200+ million contracts. He doesn't have to play again. He can go live in Hawaii, go live on the beach, do a lot of things, maybe TV, whatever. He'll be great. He had a great career for a young player if he wants to retire. I don't think he's going to retire. I think he's going to come back and play. But I will tell you this, and this has happened on my watch. I've been doing this close to 30 years. I've met players from the old days. I'm very privileged to meet and know those guys well. Hendricks, the former Jim Otto. I just can't believe I said the former Jim Otto, who passed away. George Atkinson, a mentor and a dear close confidant to me. I've watched all these guys post-football. I've talked to them all. I've met guys on the Raiders who I knew when they were in their 40s and 30s, who are in their 60s and 70s now. Some don't recognize me. And we're friends, and they see me a lot because of the brain damage they did playing football. And the league didn't care much about it back in the day. It was put your helmet back on, smelling salts, get in the game. Roger Goodell will not let Tua Tagovailoa play football. He will not. He was at the game last night. He was sitting with Amazon in their bigwigs. Roger Goodell was in the building. You think Roger Goodell is going to say at the end of the week, where's Tua on the injury report? Tua's done for a while. The league will tell Tua when he can come back. That was hard to watch last night. And I'm going to tie it into the Raiders in a different way, so I hope I'm not off on this much. Everybody in Raider Nation crying and complaining, we're 1-0. I get it. I'm on the front lines. Look at me now. But there are a lot of teams with much bigger problems than the Raiders. As national media kicks the Raiders, they stink. They're going to win 4 games, 5 games, whatever. There are teams like Tua and the Dolphins who have much bigger problems now than the Las Vegas Raiders. There are teams around the league with injuries, and they're suffering through stuff that the Raiders are not. Now, the Raiders are suffering through some injuries here. I'm a little bit concerned about their injury report. I am. I'm interested in talking about the Raiders' injury report. There's a lot of guys on that injury report that are going to play through it. Jackson Powers-Johnson, an illness. Brock Bowers, a foot, playing through it. Colton Miller, a shoulder. No go for Tyree Wilson. So there's a lot happening here. So I got a lot to say in the monologue. I normally don't shorten it, but Jim Lampley's coming up in 5 minutes. And go beat the Ravens. This is a football game, okay? This isn't something elaborate here. They can go beat the Ravens if they play really well. If they don't play really well, they won't. They can't play good and beat the Ravens. They have to play great. Do we all get that? That's the show. The show is this. Look, everybody, including Raider Nation, is saying can't win this game, can't win this game. I'm not one of them for a number of reasons. Yeah, I do get a paycheck from the team, and I'm on the flagship station. If you can't deal with that, get away from me. Go find someone else. I'm here for the Raiders to win. In order for them to win, I think we put a broadcast together every day on how they can win. What more do you need to hear from me this week than what I said to the coach? And I told you, open up the playbook, open it up, and unleash the Al Davis vault. I want to see everything this week. How dare this team not break out this playbook this week? I'm telling you now, I like Getsy. The coach, everybody. This playbook better be bleeping aggressive. We're not saving the playbook for Carolina. I want to see the playbook this Sunday. Chris in West Oakland, I think you agree on that. Start us off.
Absolutely, JT. They have to, again, you said it. Let me hit what you said about the game. Is it a tough game? Absolutely. Baltimore's an elite team in the NFL, coming off a loss, 10 days off in their home opener. The Raiders are looking at a buzzsaw. Any game can be won in the NFL. We know that. But in order for this team to win, they've got to be almost perfect. And you're right about the playbook. I'll get to that in just a minute. Here's what I think this team, because it's hard for me to predict the victory, but what this team can do and needs to do, it starts off, they need at least a +2 or a +3 turnover. You got to play clean football yourself. If you turn the ball over 3 times like you did against the Chargers, it's not going to be 22-10. It's probably going to be 38-10. You've got to play a perfect game. You've got to make Baltimore not play a perfect game. Lamar Jackson, as good as he is, has shown he'll give you some opportunities. Fumbles, interceptions. If he puts a ball in a defensive back's chest, you got to catch it. If he fumbles one, we got to get on the ground. We've got to take advantage of our opportunities for a chance to win this game. Like I said, the Raiders could play really good and still lose this game. But if they play below average, they have no chance. So like I said, JT, for this team to win, at least a +2, probably a +3 turnover advantage, turnover-free football themselves, and you're right about the offense. I'm still skeptical about Luke Getsy. I know you like him. I look at the offense he ran in Chicago, but I'm giving him a chance. Dude, it's time to go out and prove yourself. Open up this playbook. You went out and paid Gardner Minshew for a reason, regardless of why I or anybody else thinks. Let's see what he can do. I don't care. You got to roll out the pocket. You got to think outside the box. You got to do something different to keep Baltimore on their toes. Because if you just think you're going to play vanilla straight up, Baltimore's more talented than the Raiders. They're going to beat you that way. This is the kind of a game where your scheme means everything. You got to get them leaning one way and go the other. You got to maybe throw a trick play in at some point, but you got to open up the offense if you think you're going to have any chance to win this ball game at all. If it's 4th and 1, I don't want to see you run into the pile. How about a bootleg or, like you said, the little pass they used to run to Casper? Something outside the box. Because, like you said earlier this week, JT, about you can run the plays when you had Casper, Biletnikoff, and Branch. They don't have Hall of Famers. They don't have a Hall of Fame receiver other than Devontae. They don't have Hall of Fame quarterback like Snake, Hall of Fame running back like Marcus Allen, or lineman. You can't just line up and say, we're coming at you, try to stop us. You need to make the Ravens think and then do something different. So, Luke Getsy, you're on the clock, my friend. Go out and show me something this week. Compete. Don't come back with a 4-touchdown loss. Can they win this game? Yes, they can. Is it going to be tough? Absolutely. I'm not going to predict a victory, JT, but I do think this team will keep it closer and keep it close, and let's hope we can force a mistake and maybe steal a game at the end with a Carlson field goal. Thank you, my friend. Have a great weekend. Have a great time at the Canelo fight. By the way, man, always look forward to your interviews with Jim Lampley.
Yeah.
Talk to you later, bro.
Thank you, Chris. Great phone call by Chris in West Oakland. Nice to have him to come in and start the show up. I like how Chris said, I know you like Getsy, and someone in my chat, we're on YouTube. You should always be on the YouTube. You can see me, see the show. Someone just said, why is JT always angry? I said, I'm not really always angry. I had a great dinner last night with Journey. I wasn't angry. I was the toast of the party. I'm pretty happy. I'm a quiet man, John, when I'm not on the radio. I'm intense. I'm passionate, and I have a lot of fun in life. On radio, I'm focused on winning games. Another one, JT loves Getsy. I like everyone, man. I want Getsy to do well. But I love having Jim Lampley on. He's here for the Canelo fight. And Jim, before we get to Canelo and you being here in Vegas, I got to ask you about Tua's concussion last night. It's a global topic. And can you take our audience behind the scenes, how long you were involved with the NFL as a broadcaster, pregame, post, calling games, and your history in the NFL?
My NFL history. I first began on Monday Night Football doing the halftime highlights. I was the successor to Howard Cosell
Wow.
for the halftime highlights stick, which is probably the most forbidding and penalizing job I ever had. But for some reason, Bruce Arledge and ABC instructed me to do it. So I went out on the road and traveled with the Monday Night Football crew for a couple of years. Eventually, I did play-by-play on NFL games for both CBS and the NBC. And I wound up as the host of the studio show on Sunday mornings on NBC, working with Mike Ditka and Joe Gibbs and O.J. Simpson for a couple of years, maybe a few years. In the middle 90s, I was the wraparound host, pregame, halftime, postgame host for 2 Super Bowls, including the epic Super Bowl game in Palo Alto, in which the 49ers played the Dolphins, Danny Marino against Joe Montana. I was the wraparound host of that. And then, I don't know, somewhere after the middle 90s, when my focus became HBO and boxing, I opted out of NFL coverage, but that's what I did.
All right. I wanted to put that in because you've had such a great history with so many sports, but the NFL and boxing, which both have a lot to do with concussions. So when Tua went down again last night in front of the commissioner who was at the game on national TV, fans are horrified today. And I wanted to reference your career going back that many years, because back then, Jim, guys would have some smelling salts and go back in the game. And you've talked to a lot of men that are your friends in their 60s, 70s, and 80s now who can no longer carry on a conversation, boxers and football players, because of all the brain injuries they suffered. So when you saw the Tua news last night and you hear everybody talking about it today, what jumps out at you?
I think it's an intractable problem. I think that, there are various ways of looking at it. I think the profit motive at the end of the day looms large as an obstacle to legitimate progress toward neurological perfection. We're probably never going to see that and get there. The public, I'm not going to say that the public wants the carnage. That's way too damning an indictment of public appetite for football. But I think the public expects that the players have made this bargain with themselves to some degree, and they have opted to overlook the potential damage in favor of the income and the notoriety, et cetera, and those are the kinds of choices that human beings make. I'm not sure that we're ever going to be able to put the genie back into the bottle. We need to do the best we can to protect the players with the best possible helmets, best possible medical examination, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on and on.
Jim Lampley joins us, part of the PPV.com broadcast. It's exceptional, your opportunity to interact with one of the great voices in the history of sports broadcasting, especially boxing. So I'm a legacy guy. I think I've seen every one of Canelo's fight but one in Vegas, the Triple G fights. He fought Floyd too early in his career, but that was a payday, and you don't pass down fights or pass on fights maybe. Maybe he should have waited a little bit longer. What's at stake for Canelo's legacy? If you can tell us about the opponent, where Canelo is at in his storied career, and what's at stake tomorrow night?
Well, realistically, Canelo doesn't have to fight to enhance or embellish his legacy. That is already secure. And so logically, he's fighting for money. He's doing business. That's his privilege. He's earned it over the course of his career. And this is a fight that we want to watch, not because we have any confidence that Berlanga is a legitimate threat to him, but because how many more chances are we going to have Canelo in the ring? And it's an all-time great career. Recently, I was at Canastota for the International Boxing Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Eric Morales and Marco Antonio Guerrero were both there, more or less arm in arm all weekend, by the way, which was fascinating to watch. A statement on the dynamics of this sport. And I sat with them at lunch one day, and I forget which one volunteered it, but they were in agreement. They said, Canelo has at this point a logical case, an argument he can make as the greatest Mexican American fighter of all time. And I said, you mean his record is more impressive than either of yours? And they both laughed and said, well, we're not going to buy into that, but we're saying that he has a logical case. He can stay.
Okay, Jim Lampley, as we wrap this up. So, Jim, his ability now to finish out his career, I mean, it's hard to say that in boxing. You've seen a lot of guys box past their prime and continue to fight for money. Do you think Canelo's got 2 or 3 after this, another big one, or is this kind of like the swan song coming out of this with maybe 2 or 3 more fights after that, a couple of stadium fights in Vegas, maybe back in Dallas? How do you see his career ending?
Well, he's genuinely interested in legacy, as you described, and I kind of doubt at this moment that he feels this is necessary. He would seek a rematch against Dimitri Bivol.
Mm-hmm.
If Bivol gets past Artur Beterbiev, that would be a tremendous attraction. And, if Canelo took that fight and won it, then that would sort of erase one unmarked box on his resume. So that's a possibility. Or he could stay at 168 pounds and fight whoever emerges as the next logical contender after Berlanga. Or he could go up to 175 and fight one of the 2 potentially exciting challengers, David Morrell or David Benavidez. I'm far more impressed with Benavidez. I think that's what most fans would love to see. I'm not sure that Canelo is going to agree to do it.
Last one, Jim. I talk to you often, so I hope I talk to you before November, but we had a presidential debate earlier this week. A lot at stake here. Votes. Where are the votes? What's at stake for this country? What's happening around the world? How embedded are you with this topic right now, considering what we saw earlier this week and the clock is ticking towards November?
24 hours a day, I am somewhat obsessed or preoccupied with it. And for the purpose of not staining myself with 47% of your listenership, I'm not going to tell you who it is I'm rooting for, but I'm rooting for democracy.
Yes.
That's for sure.
I know you are. I'll see you ringside or in the building. Always appreciate your time, Jim. We'll be on PPV. Thank you.
Thank you, JT.
You got it. There it is, Jim Lampley. Now, you might have asked us, and as we wrap up Jim Lampley, why did I ask him that political question? We don't do politics on this show because typically he has a really bold answer, and I interview people for a living. So you're not, so for those, Jim Lampley and me have gone to not gloves war to war, but we've sat across from each other where politics was a big topic that he brought up. So I just make sure from time to time, if Jim is there, I'll ask him what he thinks on a big topic because he's a big mind. He's one of those guys that he is just not going to talk sports with you. So I went there. He didn't go there. So I pull it back and we're back to the show. Thanks to Jim Lampley. When I go to a Canelo fight or a De La Hoya fight, for our new audience, those of us on JT the Brick YT on YouTube, the biggest perk I tell Bobby that I've had in my career, working for the Raiders, is one. Really big. The boxing might be the top of the list because when I moved here in 96, I got a chance to go to every single fight. Tyson, whatever. And nowadays, I kind of, you go to a football game. I won't say what team. You go to a football game or a WNBA game. I won't mention what team. You see a lot of people in the press box who don't do anything. They don't have a blog. They don't have a column. They don't have a radio show. I know that. They don't have a TV show, but they're there covering sports. Well, back in the day, it was like that when I got here for boxing. It was like, can I go to the fight? Oh, yeah, you can sit ringside. Really? For Tyson? For De La Hoya? For Trinidad? For all these fights? Yeah. And then I just started going. And because of my relationship with boxing and how much I talk about it, they continue to invite me back. And I always tell my wife and my kids, when there's a fight, I'm going. Because I don't want to get to the point in my career where they don't invite me anymore. So people are saying, now you're going to UFC, which is Noche at Sphere, which looks incredible. That will be bigger than Canelo. We know that. But I'm more of a boxing guy than I am UFC. So I'm excited to go to the fight and see Canelo. And there's just nothing like walking into a Canelo fight or a De La Hoya fight or a Tyson fight. You get dressed up, you walk in with your buddies, your significant other, you go in and the place is just, there's nothing like the ring walk and the excitement of a fight, period. And if you've been there, you know that. And if you're not, you should try to get tickets to this Canelo fight. I don't think the tickets are going to be tough. I think you can probably get them. And if you got friends in town and buddies in town and you're going, hey, man, we can go to dinner early. No, let's not go to dinner. Let's go to the Canelo fight, drop a couple $100 on tickets and drinks, and then we'll go to dinner at 10 o'clock tonight. That's why fights are in Vegas. Vegas, because you can do that here in Vegas. Thanks to the great Jim Lampley. Chris Maathuis, the Dean of the Newsmen, will join us. Hey, next hour, we're going to jump in a little bit later on. I'm going to play a portion of the whole thing, the Gannon. We got a new feature on this show. Every week I get a chance to interview Rich Gannon, and that's on the Raiders platforms. We'll park it on this show sometimes on a Friday. Next Friday, we've got a big announcement where we're going to be. I'll tell you about that. And hopefully we got time to hear from you. 702-365-9200. It's Raiders Roll Call. We want to hear from Raider Nation all over the world. Yeah, that was good. That was really good.
Of the Las Vegas Raiders at Allegiant Stadium. Bring your friends, have some fun, but always bet
Electric
on the
environment, the prize
flag.
fight.
Casinos
Yeah.
across the valley. Don't let the game get out of hand. Please bet responsibly.
This is
He's an animal. Lampley's unbelievable in politics. He's a professor at North Carolina. Journalism and journalism and all that stuff. He's a pretty smart guy. He's the smartest guy in the room. When you say who's the smartest guy in the room, it's Lampley. Lampley's pretty sharp.
And I'm going to play that Pierce cut talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Care for those in need. Treat clients like family.
All right. What do we got going on in the chat today? We got 86 people. That's kind of quiet for a Friday. Where is everybody today? Everybody pound subscribe, hit like for me. I hope everybody got a chance to see what we did on Wednesday. We did the show from the Raiders, and it was much more jazzed up than this. We had a lot of video, B-roll. We had the coach. We had Lincoln Kennedy. We had Vinny Bonsignore and Levi Edwards. And I hope you go watch that. It's Raiders Rundown. It's at Raiders.com. And I appreciate that. Okay. Yeah. Kizzy, I love you, JT, but I love the Broncos more. Well, we welcome all fans. This YouTube will not survive with Raider fans. I don't want all Raider fans. I want sports fans. Yankee fans, Red Sox fans.
And in Green Valley on Eastern Avenue, Grimaldi's the best pizza I've ever had.
Like you, the Diamond Store in Boca Park has recognized that many jewelers are desperately offering 40, 50,
What's that?
even 60% discounts on their diamond engagement rings. As you know, that's the oldest trick in the book. They just mark it up to mark it down. Or maybe it's because they just carry bad quality diamonds.
Mhm.
At the Diamond Store, we only sell hand-picked diamonds of the highest quality in every size and every shape. And here is our guarantee. Because of our direct relationships with the world's best diamond manufacturers, we cut out all the middleman markup, which means we control.
Well, Patty gave us a copy for Virgin. If you see it, I got to grab it.
And even better, we control the price. This way, you don't have to fall for the old
Okay.
marketing tricks. And you can also be assured that you're getting the most stunning diamonds for the lowest prices. Not only in Las Vegas.
Do I think the Raiders can win? What happened to Raiders Roundtable? Good question. It's what they're doing is they're using my radio show as kind of one of the round tables. And then, what Raiders Roundtable, what we're doing is we're doing that with Eric Allen and Gannon. So Mondays, is it called Raiders Roundtable? Thought it was. I don't know. It might be. They're moving around a lot of their programming. I'm just lucky I'm involved in all of it, man. I've never been this busy with them. I got Monday the show with Eric Allen and Gannon. We got Wednesday the live stream. Wednesday the interview with the head coach, which I do. Sunday the pregame, and Sunday night the postgame. So that's about it. There's not much more I can do other than that. Plus 2 nights on Mad Dog, Sunday and Monday, and 5 days a week on this show. So that's a lot of work, man. I'm happy to have it all. Yes, this Kansas City Cup, my son went to the Yankees at Kansas City. My sons went and saw our Yankees at Kansas City and got this, and my wife made me a smoothie today because I'm trying to eat better and feeling good, working out, running more, longer walks and Peloton, and trying to stay off the cervezas until Friday. But I did have a couple of Tito's last night, which went down nice and smooth.
Celebrate responsibly. Boyd Gaming is the official and exclusive local casino partner of the Las Vegas Raiders at Allegiant Stadium.
If the guy says Raiders blow this Dwellers prick, I'm just going to blow him out. That's not very nice. So we'll put him in timeout like a little baby.
The Brick Show, brought to you by PT's, the best happy hour in town, 5 to 7 p.m. and midnight to 2 a.m.
I'll be honest, I'll just tell him retire. It's not worth it. It's not worth to play the game. I haven't witnessed anything like I've seen that's happened to him 3 times. Scary. You can see right away the players' faces on the field. You can see the sense of urgency from everybody to get Tua help. I just think at some point, he's going to live longer and he's going to play football. Take care of your family.
That's a great comment from Antonio Pierce on Tua Tagovailoa. We're brought to you by Tito's. Had a couple Tito's last night. Took an Uber home. Nothing crazy. Tito's. Drink responsibly. Have a Tito's on the rocks. Have a Tito's and soda. Tito's and whatever you want. Tito's, proud partner of the show. So most of this show today would be a deep dive into the Ravens. And we think we have that for you. Our Rich Gannon segment next hour, I think you're going to like. But the big story nationally is Tua and the concussion. And that affects the league. And you know why it affects the league? Number one, the most important thing, a human being is seriously, he's got a big decision in his life now. Does he play or not? Now, if you didn't have any money, it'd be a much more difficult decision. But he's got so much money guaranteed that he could walk away and never play again, and everybody would be good with him. He wouldn't walk into an airport or every bar, oh, Tua, I feel sorry for you. No, he'd be fine. He'd be able to get on with his life. And I think he's a really well-rounded guy from everything I've seen. Again, Tyreek Hill is a punk. He's a bad guy. He's a terrible guy. He has his whole life. And all this week now, it's fascinating to me that all week on TV, everyone's like, man, Tyreek. Look, I want everybody to be treated perfectly by police officers. If there's bad cops, you get rid of them. Tyreek Hill's a bad guy. And I look at everything that happened to Tua. I said, what a week for media coverage when you think about it. Media. You go from Tyreek Hill getting pulled over going into the game. So Tyreek Hill gets pulled over going into the game speeding and lips off at the cops. And then Tua can't finish the game. Last night, as I bring in the dean of the newsmen from 8 News Now, our great friend Chris Maathuis on a big sports weekend I'll get to in a moment. Chris, good to talk to you. I'm sure you covered Tua, and you're going to be talking about it. What a sad moment last night when he was concussed again. How'd you see it?
Yeah, I mean, in fact, Antonio Pierce, and I just tweeted this out, Antonio Pierce said it best where, you know what, you're going to live a lot longer than you're going to play football. He recommended that he retire. This is the 3rd time. And like he said, we all saw last night, you could see the deep concern on the faces of all those out there on the field when it happens again and again and now again for Tua. There's at some point you got to say, you know what? I got enough money. I'm taken care of for generations and generations. My family, my immediate family, my relatives. Maybe it is time to step away, and that's probably what he should do. But I really liked what Antonio Pierce said about that today. That you could see the word he used that really hit you. It was scary, and it really was. I mean, he's got to seriously consider. It might be time to step away. Health is way more important than the game.
I agree with you, Chris. I think it's a big moment for him because some of the one in Cincinnati where his arm was straight up, and it just looked so scary. And you've seen it with other guys when they get hurt. Some guys get concussed and you don't know about it. You and I have went to a lot of fights together where boxers get concussed. We don't know about it. We go to the press conference and you find out, years down the road, the damage it did. But in football with Tua, it seems like every time he takes on a concussion, it's very emotional for the people at the game, the coaches. I mean, Mike McDaniel last night, the guy in the press conference, that was hard to watch, his concern for his player.
No, it's a scary thing. And you could see right after it happened, first of all, it just looks like, oh, man, I hope that guy – I mean, you start talking about, like, paralyzed and serious things. And then when he falls to the ground and he kind of slowly rolls over, you almost kind of cringe inside because – I mean, this is a guy, this is a person, this is his health. It is time for him to step away. You mentioned being concussed. Sometimes you don't know. I got on the shoulders of a guy one time back in the day. I was going to dunk a basketball, fell right back on the basketball court. Apparently I was I walked over to the side. I'll be fine. I'm going out with my buddies to go to a restaurant, blah, blah, blah. I got home. Can't remember the entire day. The next day I woke up, I told my dad, I said, man, I've had the worst nightmare. He said, well, let me tell you what happened. And we actually went to the doctor. I didn't even know anything about it, but it's a serious, serious thing that you gotta take that kind of stuff seriously.
Absolutely. Chris Maathuis joins us. So am I going to lose you for UFC as I'm at Canelo? I've been dying to ask you as the man in this town, man. There's a lot going on this weekend. UNLV tonight. Walk me through your news coverage on 8 News Now and what your weekend looks like.
Well, JT, I was talking to some of the people last night. They had a little UFC media party at Topgolf, and they had Justin Gaethje there, and I was talking to his father and some different people. And every single person I talked to, I asked them, are you going to the boxing match or are you going to go to the UFC event over at the Sphere? 100% of them, JT, said they're going to the Sphere.
Mm-hmm.
You may be the only media member over at the Canelo fight, which will be good. You might be right next to the referee on the ring.
Yeah. The UFC, and we both support Dana, and we support boxing and all the fights we've seen together and sat in the same area. But for you, I've been to the Sphere a number of times for the music so far, and I just love it. And every time I go, the Eagles are coming up, and it blows everyone away. I can't imagine. Can you give us a nugget or two? Have you talked to Dana or previewing this UFC fight on what it could possibly look like inside Sphere?
Yeah, I was talking to one of the communications guy, in fact, the top communication guy last night at that Topgolf deal, and he even said, I can't wait for you to see this. They spent, over $20 million to put this whole thing together, and it's just going to be phenomenal. And Dana mentioned they've been working on this for months and months, and he said back in the day, oh, well, you can't do a sporting event inside the Sphere. Well, Dana says, yeah, I can. And so he's been working on this thing for months, and it's going to be phenomenal. What he told us is it's going to be more of almost like a story from the first fight. There's an intermission, the second fight, an intermission. In between those fights, there's going to be a story on the history of Mexico from the very beginning through the future of Mexico on that Sphere. And you and I have both been there to see U2 and the Grateful Dead and Dead and Company, I should say. And you do find yourself, I'm not going to lie, you do find yourself paying more attention to the big wall of beautiful scenery and pieces of art and different things they put up there and, cityscapes and different things than you actually do paying attention to what's going on with the band. So I think they're going to have the fight. I don't know what they're going to do during the fight, but then in between those fights, I can just imagine what they've conjured up, the USC people who are brilliant marketers and put these things together. I think it's going to be really, really spectacular.
The great Chris Maathuis, 8 News Now. Finally, for UNLV, I want to get to the Raiders quickly, but the UNLV playing Kansas, coming off the bowl game and where this program is. I know a lot of people that are going to that game, actually. I feel the momentum in the city. They get a chance to play at Allegiant, and it seems like their students are now getting behind going to games at home, and now we're seeing fans traveling to a game like this. What do you think the status is as the UNLV football team tries to get a really big win tonight?
Well, this would be their second win over a Big 12 team, so it would be absolutely perfect for what Barry Odom wants to do as he continues to build this thing. And you mentioned the student bodies. They actually had to release more tickets for the students for that last game against a team called Utah Tech, which we know is the old Dixie College, so a small cupcake. But people still wanted to come see this team. That go-go offense is really, really exciting. They just go, go, go. That's why it's called the go-go offense. Constantly going. They got the talent. They got All-Americans on this team, preseason All-American players. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You got a quarterback who can run, who can pass. You got a running back. You got a receiver who could have played anywhere in the country, came from Michigan State, and decided Ricky White, and he decided, you know what, I'm going to stay at UNLV. And he could have gone anywhere to go play, but with this NIL and all the transfer portals and all that, he wanted to see what he could do here. It's a great decision for UNLV and Las Vegas because they got it going. And if they win this game, each week I've asked Barry Odom about being a top 25 team because they're getting votes. And he says, we are a top 25 team. Well, they have a chance to go out and prove it today in Kansas. A pretty good team coming off a loss to Illinois. But remember, they were ranked in the top 25 in that preseason. Here's what I think they should do, JT. I think they should hold off on the rankings until maybe the third, fourth week, and then start ranking teams. That's this is my own personal feeling, but it'd be kind of fun to see if they could get a win there in Kansas, and then they come home for 2 straight home games against Fresno State, which is always a solid football program, and then Syracuse rolls in.
The Cuse.
It's going to be the Cuse, the Orange.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get this one tonight.
Chris, last one, the Raiders. You've been covering the Raiders since they moved here and following sports your whole life. There are games that just don't look good as matchups. They're 9.5 point, 9 point underdog. We know all that. But the Raiders didn't play well in week one. Baltimore played well in week one and lost. They've been off a long time. So you can look at it two ways. Lamar Jackson missed an early practice on Monday, likely got banged up in the game. They got Derrick Henry, who can run big, but the Raiders maybe can get him to the ground. How do you see if the Raiders are going to win the game? They obviously got to keep it close and have a chance late in the game. How do you see how could they go about and do it and keep it close and maybe steal it on the road?
Well, one thing you got to start with, of course, their best player, the reigning MVP, Lamar Jackson. And if you can hold him to at least manageable numbers, you probably have a chance. Now, he's going to get his big plays. He's going to get his big runs on Sunday morning. We know that for sure. But if you can at least hold him back, and then on the other side, you got to execute. You cannot turn the ball over like they did, the two big turnovers against the Chargers with the Minshew and then the fumble from White. You just can't turn the ball over. So if they can grind out some plays, and it all starts up front, as Antonio Pierce, he always talks about it. It starts up front with the line. If they can open up some holes, get the running game going, get the offense. And he also mentioned, I thought it was interesting that Pierce also mentioned that he wants to play a little vertical ball, get the ball downfield a little bit. You got the talented receivers. You got to use those guys. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me, JT, is at least contain and manage Lamar Jackson. If you do that, I think you have a chance.
Have a great weekend, Chris. I know you're busy. It's going to be a special one here in town, and we'll talk to you 2 Fridays from now. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much, JT. Enjoy that fight, Canelo.
Yes, I will. Chris Maathuis, and you enjoy, Jay, what's going on at UFC, the big fight over at Sphere. All right, that opens up phone lines to the top of the hour. Then I'll reset. I'll do another live monologue. We'll kick off the next hour. Want to hear from you. Raiders roll call. Who's going to be the Raider fan from the longest distance from Vegas? Is it going to be Maine? Is it going to be Florida? Will it be London? I don't know. But I run a fast-paced show, man. I barely take a breath. How about that first 40 minutes? Jim Lampley and Chris Maathuis, the dean of the newsmen. We never slow down. We got a job to do here. 702-365-9200. Brought to you by Virgin Hotels, Las Vegas. All righty. We'll take the stream to the top of the hour, and then we're going to have a Modelo Friday. Have a Modelo. We got someone. Martin, you're from Germany. Right, with the distance. Wow. Big D, smash the like button, bricklayers. I agree. So
I was thinking about playing Damien Booty coming back, but it's like a minute and a half.
I want to throw to it. Yeah, I'll throw to it. So come back with.
But you want to stay with that kind of.
Yeah, I want to come back. But come back with something, Pierce.
Come back with Pierce.
Yeah, on the O line, not happy. Set the tone. This O line's got to wake up. 8,000 miles from Germany. Look, if the Raiders don't win, and I always think they're going to win, I want them to win. If they don't, then it's going to get really, really interesting because then they got to win the next 3 out of 5. And I think they can. They could beat Carolina. They could beat Denver. They could beat Pittsburgh. They could beat Cleveland. Those are going to be games that are right there. Either team's going to win those games. I think they'll beat Carolina, obviously home opener. But after that, there's a lot of games later on the schedule. Jacksonville, Miami without Tua maybe, Cincinnati. I'm not blown away with Cincinnati. The games the Raiders are going to win. I just don't want to see Raider fans saying, well, they're 0-2 or they're 1-3 or they're 2-2 or this and that and just saying, hey, we can't. Let the team play. Let the team play for a month. And then after the month, we're going to have no choice on what we say after that. Yeah, we didn't look great in that game against the Chargers. Season ticket holder. Ravens are beatable, Sunnyside says. Protect the ball, run Zeus. Well, how are you going to run Zeus in Baltimore if you couldn't run him in L.A.? You got to hope that the offensive line plays better, right? Ride till we die. Most of you guys do. Most of you guys and gals ride till you die, which was what we love. The ones that don't hit the like button are not Raider Nation. They're spies. And people have better things to do than spy on me, man. Yeah, I would hope so. Yep. We don't need calls, Bobby. I've been doing radio longer than anybody. I can get through another hour without people being passionate as me. That's what I do. They pay me. They pay me to talk, not the callers. No. Should.
Tomorrow New York style coal-fired brick oven pizza that you crave. 4 locations in the Valley, Boca Park in Summerlin, on the Strip at the Palazzo, Southwest Las Vegas on South Rainbow, and in Green Valley on Southeastern Avenue.
Treasure Island has some of the best food and entertainment in Vegas. Enjoy Phil's Steakhouse, a classic steakhouse that features hard cuts of meat, seafood,
Yeah, well, Raiders pregame, I start at 8 a.m. I might go home after the pregame, watch it with my family, and drive back to the facility at like third quarter. Then I got to do Mad Dog from 8 to 11.
And be at the Raider facility, what,
8. Normally, fight night's a late night for me.
Yeah.
Not this time.
So you watch the fight and get back to the house.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Here we go.
bingo card for over $11,000. Mark it big and so can you with Gambler's Bonus. It's why you play the game.
The JT the Brick Show is brought to you by Remy Martin. Team up for excellence.
I mean, it always starts with those guys in front, right? When we're a good offense, running the ball, throwing the ball, it starts with the O-line, protection, everything of that nature. Their mentality sets the tone. Their energy, their presence sets the tone. I think that's really critical, and they understood. They saw it. I mean, it was glaring what the issues were last week. And you sit there and you watch it, and you walk out that game with a loss, and you're like, why? How did that happen? What was the reasons? And obviously, we discussed that. And what did you like is when you have linemen that do have a little chip on their shoulder, right? Have a little bit more fire in their belly. So, I'm not going to talk about it, though. We got to go do it on Sunday.
Antonio Pierce, turn it up. People love listening to the Doors. People love rock and roll. People love high energy. People love Raider victories. They love football, UFC, boxing. With the sports and entertainment capital of the world, Pink's in town tonight. So my great friend Chris called me and he goes, I need to move some Pink tickets. Can you help? I go, no, I cannot help you move Pink tickets. Pink at Allegiant Stadium tonight with Sheryl Crow. So Pink does this really good show. My wife's seen her a couple of times where she's flying around a football stadium, right? She's on that contraption and she's flipping and doing that Cirque du Soleil. I think a lot of people are going to go to that show tonight. I mean, what don't we have going on this weekend? Oh my God. I mean, I don't know whose residencies are playing here, but I'm looking at, you got Pink and Sheryl Crow. You got UFC at the Sphere. You got Canelo. Raiders are out of town. And there's some other things. Bobby, are there other local shows in town? What's going on?
You know, I don't know about this weekend, but in 2 weeks, I'm going to see Iron Maiden at Mandalay Bay.
Iron Maiden at Mandalay Bay. Wow. I mean, what would we do if we had to live somewhere else? Can you imagine living in Ames, Iowa? Can you imagine living in Portland, Maine? Can you imagine living somewhere in South Carolina? I mean, you have fun. You can boat, you can go to this and that. You can't do what we do here. You just can't do what we do here. So if your politicians in your city are so stupid enough to lose your sports team to give it to us here in Vegas, I mean, let that sink in for a second. Can you imagine a city losing their teams to Vegas? Like, we're not going to give them back. And we got a lot going on here, man. It's a great place to be, man. It's a free country here in Vegas. Looking forward to the weekend here. So Damian Woody, I sent this to Bobby last night. He was on SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt. Damian Woody was on those Patriot teams. He won, I think, 2 Super Bowls on one of their dynasty teams. Played in the league and was very emotional on the late SportsCenter when Scott Van Pelt asked him about Tua.
As we described a little bit earlier, right? Your reaction here in immediate moment that this happened was real concern. How as teammates do you express that concern in a way where I'm trying to figure out how to say this? You want the guy to play again because he makes you better,
right?
But you also care about the guy. I mean, how do you balance sort of that in terms of where your priorities lie?
Yeah, it's pretty simple, Scott. Is when you're with those guys more than you're with your family. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
We're at the facility for a long time, and so you get to know these guys not just as your teammates, but they're your brothers.
Sure.
And and so first and foremost, you do want what's best for them health wise, because you understand that, man, when the game is over with, you still got so much that you have to live for.
So if it's like, listen, you shouldn't play football again, then everyone would say to him, go and don't ever come back. However, I hear that.
Yes.
But there is a protocol.
Yes.
And if they follow the protocol, and it's like, look, it's scary, but he's okay. If he's prone to this again, it would appear maybe perhaps more so than others. I'm clearly not a doctor, nor am I pretending to be one. But if they follow the protocol and he checks out and he's like, look, I'm good. I'm ready to go at Seattle or Tennessee or wherever it might be.
Then I'm riding with my guy.
There you go.
I'm riding with my guy. And I'm just speaking as like a former lineman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to fight like hell to make sure no one touches my guy.
I love that soundbite at the end from Damian Woody. If they're going to let him play, the offensive line is going to fight like hell to protect him, right? Going forward. I think that's really important. So for Raider fans who are concerned about the schedule and the season getting away from them early, I'm concerned. I'm concerned to the schedule. I told you that all summer. I thought the win in LA, they should have won the game in LA. They needed to play better. They didn't execute well. The offense wasn't ready. All right, so as I wrap up this hour, let me make this point clear to everyone in the Raider Nation, so I don't sound mad. They were not ready on offense to perform last week. I think they physically were, and I think they mentally were. But the Chargers manhandled the Raiders' offensive line. Big warning. Warning sign to me. They got Bosa and Mack. Those are great players. They're not good players. They're elite players. Ravens got some great players too. But the Ravens don't have T.J. Watt. They don't have Max Crosby. Ravens don't have some of the players that the Raiders have. The Raiders' offensive line is at a point here. Because remember, the former regime and this regime, they're good with Thayer Mumford. I like Thayer Mumford. And DJ Glaze is backing him up. But those aren't all pros out there. Those aren't Pro Bowlers. And on the left side, Colt Miller is supposed to one of these days be a Pro Bowler. I love that kid. He's a hell of a player. Okay? He's not Art Shell. We know Art Shell. There's only one Art Shell. The interior of this offensive line better show up and bring their lunch pail. Because if they don't, I think the energy of this entire fan base is going to be, look, you want Getsy to have the ability to play chess, not checkers, right? You want Getsy. You know that Getsy, coming from the Packers, Mike McCarthy, Chicago, what he did to the Raiders last year, the weapons that he has, Luke Getsy's a smart guy. Okay, he might not be your favorite offensive coordinator. I'm not here to tell you that. But whatever he's got, I want to see it. I want to see it here. So for the Raider fans and the fans that are saying, like myself, hey, little play action, deep throw. I want to see it. I don't want to hear about it. I want to see it. If it's incomplete, I'm cool. I'm cool if it's incomplete. But we got to see some attacking now. And don't tell me you can't attack the Baltimore Ravens. All right, this isn't Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. Okay, they're good, but they're not all-time good. And they just came off a loss to a team that the Raiders beat last time, Kansas City. The Raiders beat Kansas City in Kansas City. The Ravens lost. Okay, so let's form this. Let's have a point of attack here that says, oh, my God. Now, if the Raiders get beat badly, there's a problem. Because then it's just like urgency, sound the sirens with Carolina coming to town. But I think the Raiders will be ready. Antonio Pierce, when I saw him this week, talked to him on the air and privately, he knows what has to happen. This scenario was playing out a while ago. They didn't have a quarterback. They had a competition. They went with Gardner. Gardner had 75% completions in LA, second in the NFL in week one. Pretty good number. So when he threw the ball, forget the turnover. That slipped out. That's a fluke. Every other ball he threw, the turnover, the interception was batted at the line of scrimmage. Pretty much every ball he threw the entire day in LA was a good ball. 75% completion ratio. He hit someone in the hands who made a play. Got to do that again. Got to do it again, but you got to have more explosive plays. And I hope Zamir White's a real quiet guy. I don't know him, interviewed him, don't know him well. He's got to come in nasty, man. This guy's special. He's a young guy with tree trunks for legs. He's got to be a battering ram in this game. He's going up against Derrick Henry. Might be the only time in his life Zamir White goes up against Derrick Henry. And that's going to be important that he shows up. We got another hour. You'll hear our conversation with Rich Gannon. I'll reset here at the top of the hour. Thanks, everybody on YouTube, as I say goodbye. We had a big week on YouTube. JT the Brick, YT. I thank everybody who subscribed. Thank you. All right. One more hour to go. We're just going to do it radio here, everybody. Have a great weekend. I will hopefully hear from you on the Raiders pregame show. Pregame show, 8 a.m. on Sunday.
Join us at the Coors Light official